let's kick off match one. So please welcome to the stage the two-time back-to-back top 4 World Championship performer. It is JasonZhou.
JasonZhou looking to make Hearthstone history and finally make China #1.
He performed one miracle this weekend. Can he get another and become the World Championship? It's Fr0zen.
Fr0zen looking to ride the perfect balance of innovation and talent to a World Champion title.
Semi-final number 1. JasonZhou versus Fr0zen.
I think Jason's been playing pretty solid.
Fr0zen bring a very good deck that mage counters a lot of aggro decks.
I think JasonZhou has the standard lineup. It's nothing new.
But his Jude maybe has weakness. It should be a very close game.
I am favored versus Jason,
Most likely it's 50-50.
and I expect to win.
It's basically up to our performance.
JasonZhou versus Fr0zen. Let's do this!
It's go time for the first semi-final. Who is going to take it? The fear factor of this mage has pulled out a ban from JasonZhou. Is he going to live to regret it? We're going to find out, because I'm surprised that the talk of the tournament was, is Warlock or Priest going to be banned? Nope, Mage. So Fr0zen now has to sit back on this Warlock and Priest. As you mentioned, Sol, a lot of favorable matchups with this lineup.
Yeah, and the Mage in particular is just incredibly favored against Jason's all board-focused, aggressive decks. It has to go down, and that's the privilege that you earn by coming up with this Mage deck and putting it in your lineup, is that you then get to play the dream team of Warlock and Priest. JasonZhou, though, you have Keleseth, you have Patches. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it's a nice sunny day. You just have to take everything as it comes in this game.
Really do feel like we've seen Patches quite a lot in the hand at this tournament. Is JasonZhou going to be able to move forward, though? As you said, the Keleseth does kind of counteract it, but it does also remove the turn 3 power play you have with the Keleseth then into a pirate to pull the Patches. That's the swing you were looking for earlier.
Yeah, if anything, it's an even worse feeling when you have the Keleseth, because part of the power of Keleseth is having Patches still in your deck to get buffed and pulled out. You know, I talked earlier that I think one mistake a lot of mid-level players make with this deck is shadow stepping Keleseth in the late game when they've already used their Patches, because that immediacy of the Patches is one of the big points that makes Keleseth so strong.
And Fr0zen on the Q block, also having the one-off Galactic Crawler in his deck in his hand. So even if a pirate does come out, he has a direct answer. And speaking of pirates, there's another deck answer available. And Fr0zen's about to get the maybe the happy knowledge that yes, there is no Patches. So that's got to be feeling good to kick off this series for Fr0zen.
Yeah, and we've seen Tempo Rogue players say in aggro druid matchups where they play double Galactic Crawler, deliberately not playing pirates, just dropping a 3-3 in that situation, for example, with the SI7 agent. When you're playing against Fr0zen's list that only has that one Galacta, you are perfectly entitled to disrespect that Galactic Crawler, especially when no cards are kept, which Jason would have kept track of. Lowers the chance of this punish exactly happening to you so much. The odds are in your favor. Jason will be hugely disappointed that Fr0zen has found that Galacta so early.
Yeah, even following up with the one of the other one-offs in his deck is one Galacta, one Doomsayer in the 2 slot that are outside the normal range of Warlock, and this is just a security factor here.
I actually love this play so much. A lot of players would have looked at this board state and said, oh, I just made a totem go. Like, I'm in charge of this board now. I just sit and make him deal with it. But then suddenly, Backstep SI comes out, some play with another South Sea deckhand comes out, and you've lost the board again. So now, you're trying to play the Doomsayer and say, hey, I'm happy if this board blows up, because then free turn, Skull of the Minari on 5 sets up your entire game plan going forward.
Exactly, it's the setup for the legendary weapon for Fr0zen, and also with a Doomguard in hand. At minimum, he gets a Doomguard. He might draw a Void Lord this turn, still guaranteeing some kind of active effect. The Doomguard might actually work out being better because you are against the one turn that JasonZhou can put forward in terms of aggression right now. Doomguard grants that very, very quickly.
Fr0zen already looking so much more comfortable against, as he said in that little intro package, just the same old lineup.
Nothing
That's what I was
special,
expected.
yeah.
I think by his own admission, against Sintalo in some of those weird matchups, there were times where he didn't know whether to wind his butt or scratch his watch. He had no clue what he was doing, essentially. But now he's just back against the decks he's practiced against, and it's showing. His plays are super solid. You just got that.
It took me a minute to catch up to that phrase, then I was like, wait, what did you just say? We won't repeat it, though.
I just saw the moment of recognition wave over your face. Yeah, he just got that.
I did stop listening to you for a second while I worked it out.
Yeah.
Defile doesn't really look very clean here. There is a trade into the Corridor Creeper and then a Defile with a 1, 2, 3 health on the board after that. So again, Fr0zen could just say, oh, well, actually, I'm okay just clearing the board once more. The only problem Fr0zen has here is there's a lot of removal, and he has the Dark Pack for healing, but there's no follow-up, there's no next step here for Fr0zen.
Might just be a heal turn with the mana that he has available. He's going to need to heal at some point. If he starts drawing in to his more explosive plays, he's going to need mana available, for example, on turn 9, just perhaps to just drop out Void Lords if he draws multiple in hand. Does have Skull of Minari equipped to pull out one at a time. But yeah, I like allocating this mana usage now to just healing, even though he's unlikely to die on the very next turn. He just needs to get it done at some point over the coming turn.
Yeah, the draw into the Mistress was huge there, because a lot of the time you are forced in awkward spots as the Warlock, where you have to like trade with the Doomguard, then Dark Pact it, because you don't have anything else to target. But the Mistress just makes everything a little bit nicer here as Fr0zen goes all the way back up to 25. JasonZhou does have Leroy Shadow Step, nice backstab SI, so he has the tools that can work together to create some very high damage out of turn. But is he going to be secure enough to even get there? Can he even pressure Fr0zen enough to get it within some kind of Leroy Shadow Step range? Hope for no Void Lord in the meantime. He knows the weapon to play.
It's a good question. Warlocks are so resilient now. The reason why we haven't seen control or combo Warlock strategies really dominating since Reno rotated is just they lacked healing. Sludge Belcher wasn't available, Antique Healbot wasn't available since those cards disappeared. The stability was not there to support Life Tap, Hellfire, these powerful abilities that you pay at the cost of your own health. Now suddenly, Dark Pact, Spellstone, Blood Reaver Gul'dan, insane amounts of life gain available for Warlocks.
Yeah, insane amounts of Audrey population as well from JasonZhou, utilizing him, holding on to that coin. Now he can get some use out of the patches with the charge from the Bowman, putting Fr0zen on 11 again. Fr0zen is under a lot of pressure. Kobold Librarian into exactly a Spellstone would be really, really nice for Fr0zen here.
He has the clear available already, right? I believe. Spell Power Defile would do 2, 2, and then 1, killing the patches, and then the patches would die with prop for 1 more, killing the Bowman.
The value of Zealot over many other minions of Thalnos, for example, you never get the double spell damage Defile hit off.
Oh no, that actually wouldn't work. Well, it does with the Librarian now, because you need the first kill. You need something to die off the first Defile prop. The Divine Shield wouldn't be able to prop.
Defile's not easy, guys.
I make that mistake a lot. It's such an easy thing to forget, because you earmark Zealot Defile as a combo. You just assume that it works as intended every single time.
It's actually the benefit of Thalnos, is that you can actually always get the first pick off.
Trust me.
Gonna be another Mistress Dark Pact, but now Fr0zen's healing capabilities are greatly reduced for the rest of the game outside of drawing Gul'dan. JasonZhou might be able to piece together a good amount of damage here. Bowman can just go face for 6. Start cracking away now. He's seeing the 2 Dark Pacts. Leroy Shadow Step Leroy is now unlocked.
So many
Having the mana
options.
available, but I think Jason has to start off with the Swashbuckler here just to see what he can get.
It's 13, 19, is he 1 off? When he Shadow Steps it back, it's only doing 6 more.
Yeah. Gonna put him to 1 and say, do you have a taunt or a heal? To be completely honest, he's just seen both Dark Pacts.
That's not healing for Fr0zen.
Can't tap either by putting him to 1.
Right?
Is there any way he can get out? He's not even scratched JasonZhou yet, so it's not as if he can, you know, for example, Prince Tal'Darim, the Leroy for some extra damage this turn. He has Doom Guard, so he could play that as well, get even more damage, but is it enough? The Defiles, doesn't matter if the board's clear, if your opponent can just poke you in the face with a dagger.
It's a great looking play from JasonZhou, recognizes the situation, recognizes the amount of healing that had already been used. Too early for Gul'dan to stabilize. Only the Spellstones would be able to heal Fr0zen up in this position, and I think Jason recognized that the board state was slipping away for him and just needed to make the play. It's a great catch.
It really is. After seeing the two Dark Packs are so huge, they are your two tools to either make some big combos happen, or to stave off some hell. Tapped, he saw the next card was the Void Lord, but it's not enough. A great recognition of the situation from JasonZhou. Put his opponent to 1. No, you cannot use that hero power and survive.
Yeah, and of course, Void Lord is a card that Jason could rule out of the outs as well, because it would have been pulled out of the hand the whole time by Skull of Minari, so he knew it was a very unlikely that Fr0zen was going to have something to counterplay his push at that spot. Beautiful play from JasonZhou.
Yeah, JasonZhou is going to be pushing here. 1-0 lead over Fr0zen. But Fr0zen has plenty of support in the audience himself. Is he going to be able to fight back? Find out after this.
Raven, I have a question for you. We talk about who's the best player in the world quite a lot, who's top 5. You know, you stream, I'm sure it's a question that you get in Twitch chat or a lot. It's a question I've been asked on Twitter. Do you ever hear JasonZhou's name mentioned? And if so, why not?
Well, you're asking me the hard-hitting questions right now. Actually, I don't. He's not commonly put in the top contenders of top players in the world. But I'll be honest, if you ask that question in China, for example, I think he very much would be talked about a lot. I think it's very much this year we've seen more and more of the other regions get involved with, you know, Europe and Americas as they fight throughout every season. And the more we see JasonZhou, the more we understand why he is a star in China and a star in the world, as this is his 2nd time in this position in the World Championships. This is game number 2, 1-0 for JasonZhou. This is the Priest Mirror.
And luckily, Brian Kibler is not on the cast to tell Fr0zen to take Temporis.
I don't think he ever told anyone directly to take Temporis.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Okay. Someone just runs over to Fr0zen now. He's like, Fr0zen, should I talk about Temporis this turn? Maybe he is. We can't see the stage from here. Did not go for it. Went for the Draconid Operative. These two decks are kind of more the stories of Priest, really, with just how powerful we expect it to be, but how many times we've seen it being played out. It's just kind of surprising to me. I really didn't expect this. Oh, indeed. The audience gets it.
Yeah.
They know what's up.
The level of knowledge from the crowd has actually been really impressive throughout. There's been moments like before the casters even explain what the thing that's happened is called, the audience has been rumbling and mumbling and applauding things. It's been really awesome to be in front of like an educated Hearthstone audience.
It's not only me he thinks it is dumb sometimes.
I literally just said the exact opposite.
But you were surprised.
That's true.
There you go. So yes, that is an extra Anduin there for Fr0zen. But at the moment, both players just trying to draw what they can as fast as they can. Look at something to keep an eye on here is definitely just deck size and how many cards and how quickly each player is cycling through. Because the second one gets that 2-3 cards ahead, is when things start to go very, very wrong.
Fr0zen here does have the more minion-based deck with the extra dragons thrown in there, but he is going to have to try and convert that into some kind of board advantage. That's what he'll be trying to do. We saw Surrender yesterday win against Jade Druid through the mid-range minions in his conventional build, just doing little pieces of chip damage, keeping the armor under check. This is a similar effect, but a different matchup where early minion pressure can be converted into just a quicker kill with that Shadow Reaper Anduin that he's just just picked up. He might not have to dig all the way through his deck to find that full Bell and Mind Blast combo.
That's it. For every, like maybe 5 or so damage, it's like, oh, well, there's like one less card I need to be able to piece together. surrender, right? Because the card gets 2, maybe a little bit more damage overall, depending on the tool used. Priest of the Feast coming down for JasonZhou, though. That is normally a minion that has to be dealt with. Oh wow.
Speaking of Demahe.
Oh, you actually like it here. Mind Blast, okay.
The damage.
Demahe. I mean, Lyra's kind of damage.
True. No, that is fair point.
Lyra was, right, you know, that was not a snap pick Mind Blast.
No, it's a good point.
Lyra's can be a scary, scary tool. Be able to just get some extra things you shouldn't be allowed in the game of Hearthstone.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point to raise, but I think the usefulness of Lyra comes more into the kind of J-Druid matchups, where you just don't really have the damage in your deck to be able to push through the amount of armor they can generate, unless you're Surrender, in which case, of course, somehow you just magic more damage out of thin air. I don't know.
Check if Surrender's hero power was actually doing the correct amount. Right. Maybe it was doing like 1 extra damage and we just didn't notice.
Right. In that scenario, Lyra just literally adding more cards and more pings into your deck can be of great usefulness, but Fr0zen has the damage covered in his deck already, so just grabbing Mind Blast with Felon already in hand just seems like a greater prospect.
Also, depending on how this game goes, there's the mental stability of JasonZhou that might be in question after seeing the Anduin from the Glimmer route, which was the way he could lose this game, which would be absolutely insane. A little bit demoralizing, I think, in this series.
I don't think Jason's mental state is in question, based on the fact that he's already been 2-0 down this tournament and come back with reverse sweeps. Like,
True.
He has very much demonstrated that he knows how to keep a level head and keep going in these situations.
I was a bit surprised by that is not a discover. It's a trap often people fall into.
But what he's doing is he's considering whether a pit fighter, essentially a 5-mana 5/6, is even worth being in his hand. Right? Because his hand is quite full right now. He's going to want to cycle cards. There's the threat of overdraw from the opponent, all that kind of stuff. So we're just making sure. We have seen it be correct in the past. I believe Orange and one other player at Summer Championships made that same play where they played Glimmeroot and deliberately picked wrong to not have the card in their hand.
Only sometimes that's relevant, but yes, it is definitely a consideration in the most important match of Hearthstone in your life.
Exactly. And why not think about everything, right?
My mind can't handle that. That's what I've got you for. Sure. Kazaka's Potion option is another 5. We've seen quite a large amount of 5 Kazaka's Potions, as opposed to the general feeling of 1 that goes around a lot in Highlander Priest. Summon 2, draw 2 though, that's just a solid value card overall.
Yeah, and currently the summon 2 for JasonZhou is exactly Loot Hoarder Novice Engineer, I believe. So that's actually draw 3, essentially, is what that Kazaka's Potion does for 5 mana. It's pretty solid. We just got a real match.
I can't even say that enthusiastically. We just got a real match. That's what it sounded like to me. But Raza is going to even this up a little bit here as Anduin, with no 0-mana hero power for Fr0zen, will be negated just a little bit here. I do always struggle to just not play Raza if I have it. Yeah. It feels really bad to say, oh, you know, I've got Raza, pretty good. Hero power is 0 every single turn. I'm going to play this instead. There were very few times when that feels good.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly who it was that tweeted this on day 1. It may have been TikTok, actually. Someone tweeted, just stop what you're doing and play Raza on 5. Like, stop thinking about doing other plays. Although, Sintalol did offer us the advice that you don't listen to TikTok if you want to do well in the World Championship. So, I don't know who to believe.
Yeah, I mean, what if someone says you shouldn't listen to Sintalol?
Exactly.
Then it becomes a bit of a paradox.
Just a mess.
And then we definitely don't listen to Paradox.
Oh, 100%.
Didn't play the Raza. See if it pays off for JasonZhou.
Is someone injured?
These matchups often, when discussed, really focus on the Raza and Anduin interactions. Of course, it's the power point of the deck. But
that's fair.
why not at this point? But I will say, managing exactly how many resources to use against these early minion pushes every turn does also make or break the game at this point in the mirror.
Circle of Healing here will pull Fr0zen back up to exactly 10, but he does have the coin and a silence that he can throw away. And with his deck size dwindling, he is going to choose to prevent the overdraw, which, I had a very lengthy discussion on Twitter about the other night, is only relevant, of course, if you're going to fatigue, which Fr0zen is approaching at this point with a very important card, Fr0zen the Unchained, still remaining in his deck.
Yeah, I will say as well, Fr0zen, I talked about, keep an eye on the deck counts. Fr0zen, 11 cards. JasonZhou, 17. He was on the receiving end of a Psychic Scream as well, which definitely didn't help the matters. But that is a huge difference in this matchup. Even like 3 cards is huge. Never mind it. 7-2, draw 2 is going to come out to play. Pyromancer and the Loot Hoarder, so that's 1 additional draw going down. And finally, we do see the Raza, just for some extra heal now to try and negate these hero powers. Because again, sometimes you don't need Raza to win, especially with the extra Mind Blast. Fr0zen.
I know it was changed, but just my years of Hearthstone experience tell me that Pyromancer's supposed to go off there. It just feels wrong. You know that feeling when you're walking down a set of stairs and you think there's one more and there isn't?
Oh,
just your whole body feels wrong. That's what that feels like to me.
He did not fall into the chair.
That's a Raza.
A piece of light Raza, okay, yeah. But that is going to be lethal, guys. The coin is going to be used to be able to get this unconventional win. For Fr0zen, it's going to be 1 and 1. Mind Blast for 10. Coin, hey, second Mind Blast for another 10. And that is the game. Fr0zen fights back.
And it's great recognition from Fr0zen, because on the previous turn, he didn't throw away the coin to avoid overdraw. He held on to it because the coin was essential to allowing that double Mind Blast combo to happen, and the surprise lethal has squared up the series.
Yeah, and they're really rough as well for JasonZhou as it came off. It came off the Anduin he got from the Glimmer route as well, so everything just felt that little bit quicker. But it's all even now. And Fr0zen only even in this match, one of the most important matches of his life, coming off the win of one of the craziest matches of my life that I have ever seen. Check it out. And that series was just incredible, to be completely honest. I still, after a day, don't quite understand what happened, but that's all behind Fr0zen now. He's got a new one to focus on.
I don't think Fr0zen and Sintalog did, to be perfectly honest. They both said they were kind of just making that up as they went along. Neither of them playing perfectly, but just using their natural intuition and Hearthstone experience to figure out the best plays on the fly, as Fr0zen said. And yeah, they did a good job, but it was the element of imperfection that was making that game incredible as well.
Talk about imperfection. Having a pirate in your opening hand and then drawing patches the second time for JasonZhou in this series, definitely going to feel rough. Rest of his hand, though, definitely not too bad here. You can get off a Mark of Yasharaj in the following turns to have a higher impact minion, and one often Druid isn't that capable of, or at least Jade Druid, should I say, isn't very capable of dealing with at such an early phase.
Yeah, 3-7 is not something you're having a good time against as Jade Druid, but Fr0zen has teched in those Violet Teachers and that Innovate to be able to deal with this, as well as Mark of the Lotus, which is not only a combo piece for the Violet Teacher, but also increases the power of your spreading Plague turns. And through that, just thinks he picks up a few extra percentage points against these aggressive decks that he wants to play against. Remember your interview with Purple. Purple said Fr0zen just wants to play against aggro. That's all he wants to do.
Maybe he might have not expected his mage band out, though.
I mean, I think you're getting close to that point where you're expecting that to happen. I think Fr0zen brought that deck because he recognized that it was so powerful against the field that people were going to bring, and slowly over the course of the tournament, everyone else caught up to that and went, yeah, actually, he's right, I need to ban.
One of the powerful newer cards in Druid, the Branching Path, just being able to 4-mana just cycle 2. Drawing 2 cards is really good. As Fr0zen gets that Violet Teacher that, as you mentioned, is almost like the tech in Fr0zen's deck to be able to take on more of these aggro matchups.
Now, crucially, he has the Spellstone as well, alongside Branching Paths again, to be able to gain armor this time to increase the power of it as a removal option.
His swipe, Spreading Plague. As you said, Branching Pass and the Spellstone. That's a lot of great cards against aggro Druid. Here comes the spreading play. At worst, it's going to soften these minions up to make Swipe a stronger play, or maybe even Violet Teacher and just the Spellstone as a removal. You know, there's a lot of directions Fr0zen can go in terms of just trying to shut JasonZhou down.
And there you see the power of Innovate. Even in its new 1-mana form, Jason played out low attack minions that turn, played out a Diamond, just dropped to 1-3 because he was not scared of spreading Plague yet. And there it came down a turn early for the punish.
Yeah, that's it. Spreading Plague, an exceptionally powerful card on 6. When you can use it with the coin, which is effectively what Innovate is, just an extra coin or 2 in your deck. Can't really play around that. Very similar to the way people play Coining Rogue, say Bone Mare turn, for example. JasonZhou does have the almost backup living mana available just in case this board does get cleaned up. But also, we kind of talked about the merits of, do you actually just extend your board with living mana as opposed to just wait until the board's clear and then go use it for the refill? Both definitely have upsides.
Yeah,
but sure. Timing is crucial, I would say.
Fr0zen now staring at a slightly awkward hand. This is a hand that has to fight through the board state that he's looking at and a living mana before he's able to really find any stabilization. It's not looking like he has all the tools to do all that just yet.
He has a couple of options, like Violet Teacher with the double Spellstone, even though they are very low, can get some work done and generate some tokens for yourself, or could even be just Branching Paths for armor, and then use the Spellstones to remove 2 of the bigger minions, the Crab and the Spider there. That would set up for Violet Teacher next turn. I don't think he has to worry too much about Branching Paths in terms of more card draw because he has that Ultimate Infestation. He just needs to make sure he can get to the Ultimate Infestation to refill his hand.
I like the Violet Teacher double Spellstone play because from what he can see, the Violet Teacher can't be dealt with. He has to go through the 1-2, and then he only has 3 damage remaining, so even a hero power afterwards doesn't take care of this Violet Teacher.
Also as well, the flexibility of if the Violet Teacher's dealt with, it's unlikely that the 1-1s are dealt with, and even at worst, you could double Branching Paths for attack, right, and just trade up with those 1-1s.
Or even, you know, those 1-1s are just little extra tools that you can use to create swipe.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so flexible, those tokens. Right. And now we see JasonZhou committing with a living mana, because he has 2. This is scary. Second Ultimate Infestation, not what Fr0zen wanted here. Needed pretty much any other card in his deck at this point.
Swipe looks nice though. What it doesn't kill, it softens up to the point where the 1-1s again that he's creating this turn will be able to trade into them.
Fr0zen wouldn't do for 1-1 handed this turn. Just to be able to Branching Paths and Swipe. Effectively 14 damage represented on board here without a button, of course. But that, you know, there's plenty of mana. Power of the Wild and Mark of the Lotus and Savage Roar are all just for Fr0zen. JasonZhou picks it.
It's a 4th crystal back to Jason, but not a 5th, which is actually incredibly crucial given the contents of his hand. He would have already had 3 on the pass back anyway, which means that you know, he would have been able to play any given buff in his hand. Fr0zen somehow manages to deny the second living mana coming down there, which is huge for him.
Yeah, like, as we can see, there's no game for Fr0zen next turn. He needs something amazing off the top, or Branching Paths needs to get some work done. If he allowed JasonZhou to just freely refill the board, he would be in trouble for his 8 mana turn. No,
hello.
Does get him to Ultimate Infestation next turn.
Stabilize. Try and rely on these UIs to find his way back into the game, step by step.
A good card. It's actually insane.
Living mana is too, Raven.
Which one's better? We decide now.
I think the play here is fairly straightforward. Fr0zen has telegraphed Ultimate Infestation this turn, so the last thing you want to do is play a 7-mana 5/5 into it, even if you could.
Yeah, there really is no need. There was no need to ramp at all if you had any other game plan apart from playing Ultimate Infestation. The worry here for Fr0zen is UI is a really strong play, drawing more cards, gaining some armor, and create 5/5. He removes one minion from the board of 7. But JasonZhou is surely deserving of at this point in the game, because we've just not seen any of the board-wide buff.
Oh, there it
But
is.
comes down. Yes, yep.
The one remaining spreading plague is found off the first UI.
Also, Oaken Summons as well is just solid, even just for armor, worst case scenario at this point. Just any more armor to push you further and further out the range, and the mana cost of Oaken Summons means Fr0zen can squeeze it into these turns, right? It's not like a spreading plague that reduces your quality to step down a little bit.
Crucial for Jason now to get some high impact minions in play, because he knows Fr0zen is now going to be able to cycle through his deck very, very quickly. Even if the spreading plague was not there, there could be the second nourish, there could be the second UI. There are other ways that Fr0zen can use to dig through his deck and then find that second spreading plague.
Can JasonZhou get there at this point? I think he just needs to draw a buff next turn. Something huge needs to happen, because spreading plague into that Oaken Summons I mentioned a little bit earlier, probably the best turn Fr0zen could want at this point, especially with the branching paths gone.
Bandrel, I believe, yep, there it is, the one remaining minion left in the deck with one teacher played, one teacher drawn.
And nowhere Ironwood Gold in the deck.
Not played. That's the Violet Teacher spot in Fr0zen's deck, and then Mark of the Lotus is coming in for Wrath, I guess you would say, in comparison to the conventional Jade Druid list.
Turn not feeling too great. JasonZhou. Double captain. Yeah, they buff each other. It's kind of a buff. Not what you want to do when you can barely scratch these taunts that are in the way for you this turn. And now Fr0zen can fully focus on clearing up this board any way he sees fit. He can play the Violet Teacher to get more tokens. There's the 2 Wild Growths that now serve as card draw at this point, and spells that will buff even more tokens onto the board.
Pay
And
attention,
that swipe
class.
pickup allows him to do almost whatever he wants this turn.
I'm ready to learn.
Yeah, I think the swipe is a good choice here. If he just deals with this one wave of minions, he has won the game. He's got Jade Behemoth to fall back on after this point, which will be making 4/4 Jades, but that doesn't matter anymore. Fr0zen is now one game away. As I mentioned, he had favorable matchups basically across the board. The one sticking point was his Druid. That was the weakest deck in his lineup according to our HS replay data, and he's won with the Druid. So now, is it going to be smooth sailing for Fr0zen, who only has his Warlock left to win?
I have heard Warlock is pretty good at the moment, and we're going to be finding out soon. But we've got a next match coming up as well. Obviously, the second semi-finals, number 2, is going to be Tom60229. He's just going to get ready there. He's going to be playing versus Surrender.
Yeah, there is the APAC battle, the battle that guarantees us an APAC finalist. But as we take a little tour around the venue, it truly is standing room only in here, in every hall. As far as I'm aware, they are all packed out. There are meet and greets and signings across the hall from us. But in here, this is the main event. This is what you all came to see. The Hearthstone World Championship. There is the alternate viewing room even packed out there as well. The theater seating watching us on big screen. Incredible support for what is essentially a stand-alone Hearthstone World Championship. We've splintered away from BlizzCon. We got too big for BlizzCon.
I like it, and a huge thank you again to everyone who's turned up to come watch us. I know everyone was queuing for a long time this morning. The queue was exceptionally long, very, very early on, so good job, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great time, because I know we are as we move on to game number 4 in this first semi-finals of the World Championship. Fr0zen on the Q block. All he's got left to take a win. Jason now on his Priest.
Cube and Dark Pact combination in opening hand for Fr0zen. Skull of the Minari pick up as well, meaning he's got a lot of bases covered already. Jason, though, he's starting to tick the boxes as well, because he has Raza and he has that Psychic Scream, which is a very important card in the matchup in certain situations as well.
Really is slow down the potential of overrunning the board. Imagine Cube comes down without Dark Pact, and Psychic Scream the Cube, and you've destroyed the minions inside that don't exist anymore as well. What I will say in this matchup, even the Gul'dan is very important, and it may well alter Fr0zen's overall game plan. It means he can probably be more aggressive with Doom Guards and generating Doom Guards, because he knows he has that turn 10 Gul'dan to hit you in the face extremely hard.
Slams that Spellbreaker on the Blood Mage Thanos. Not really a great deal of silencing that needs to be done in this matchup, so denying card draw is about as good as it gets, but now we are going to see Fr0zen curving out pretty hard with all of these powerful tools that he has in hand.
Even already has Void Lord in hand as well, so it's not as if sometimes you have to equip the Skull of Minari. It's just worth the investment that turn. It might not get you a demon next turn, might not get you the demon the turn after, but when you have one loaded and ready to go, the turn after you equip is absolutely huge.
What do you ask?
Summon a 5/5, deal 5, no polymorph effect from the Kazuka's potion, which again can be crucial. These ways that you can kill minions without activating Death Rattle, I say kill in kind of inverted commas, shuffling them back into the deck, transforming them so that Death Rattles do not activate. That is key to victory in this matchup a lot of the time.
It really is, and even then, it's not enough sometimes, depending on how progressed the Warlock player is. Fr0zen's looking pretty good here, but I will say JasonZhou is presenting a good amount of almost chip damage here. We saw this earlier, where JasonZhou, not with Priest, but was pressuring Fr0zen's Warlock, and there weren't enough defensive tools to actually survive. JasonZhou trying to do the same. He has Mind Blast, he has 5 damage as well on his potion. That's 10 just for 7 mana.
Fair point.
Now, Fr0zen will be considering exactly how he sees this game going. And he's going to say, well, I have 2 cubes, I have 2 Dark Pacts. Yes, I would like more Void Lords. They might not be as strong as Doom Guards in terms of, punching your enemy to death, but they're definitely big minions that are hard to remove. But just Jason. Sometimes you don't want to Master Spell Void Lords, right? Sometimes you want to kill the Void Lords, then the Void Walkers, and laugh when your opponent Gul'dans into 7 Void Walkers.
Yep.
So although the Master Spell's a good draw, Jason now has to make a decision on how he wants the game to play out, or how he foresees the game to play out. I mentioned he has the minions on board. He could Master Spell go face and say, let's go.
Exactly. That's the super clutch situation for Master Spell. Unless you're using Master Spell to silence a cube that your opponent's left on the board for some reason, you should play around that in most situations by quickly activating your Death Rattles yourself. But the Master Spell specifically, one of the reasons why it started to become a little bit more common is that you can silence just a full board of, say, even just 7 Void Walkers and just smash through for damage with your minions. Since Fr0zen has managed to heal himself all the way back up to 29 already, that's not a huge factor for Jason at this point.
Yeah, he only would have pushed, 7 through minions this turn? Not huge, not in the danger zone in terms of health for Fr0zen. But that moment, that decision from JasonZhou is when I wish we had alternate timelines we could visit, where we could go and see what happens if he went silent and aggressive. They choose to create as many Void Walkers as possible, though. Which again, as I said earlier, really mess with your Gul'dan numbers.
There is Doomguard number 1. So now Fr0zen, you will probably see him suicide some of these 1/3s in order to create board space for Skull of the Minari to pull that Doomguard out so that he can play dirty tricks on it with the Carnivorous Cube soon thereafter.
It's kind of funny that it might actually have been an unfortunate choice in terms of creating the 5/5. He did it. These Void Walkers can't go anywhere.
Well, the Raza still would have been in play before Fr0zen killed it, so he could have still...
He could have at least made some kind of space. Yeah. Not a lot, but some kind of. Yeah, that's true. Again, it's just something else you have to think about when you're playing against any form of Warlock, because if you can fill the board, guess what? Skull of Minari doesn't work because there's no space for the minion in hand to even hit the board. Right. Great healing potion. Feels like kind of a whiff and just not a great card in this matchup, to be completely honest. Especially the aggressive cube variant. Normally if you heal back up to full, you're dead the next turn anyway, based on what the board come up.
And now Anduin picked up, and there's a coin, there's a Holy Smite, there's a Mind Blast, all in hand. This is going to be a ton of damage ramping up very, very quickly, but for both players.
Yeah, this is going to be a ton of damage this turn as well. Oh, if only Fr0zen had one more mana. Cube, well, hit with Doomguard, Cube Doomguard, Dark Pact. That is often how you play this deck. A casual 15 damage.
Fr0zen's searching for a play that doesn't walk right into Shadow Reaper Anduin this turn.
I'm wondering whether he cares. A lot of the time, if you set that many Doomguards up, that it's a problem that Anduin kills them all. You have Gul'dan in hand, and okay, 10 mana, now you are dead.
He has 6 Voidwalkers in his pool, though.
That's where the problem with the decision of creating the double Void Lords was from the original cube. You have to add all of this together, and again, Jason not going with the silence play early on to dodge them. The Voidwalkers actually ended up quite a lot on the board. I'm not sure what the total Voidwalker count, I believe it's 5.
5 have died
One
already,
on the
there is
board.
one
Yes,
more on
yes.
the board, so there is likely to be 6 by the time it goes on.
After seeing the Master Spell though, Fr0zen decided to go for the greedy double cube play.
Yep.
No big burst from Doomguards this turn, and also opens up JasonZhou's Psychic Scream.
Yeah, the Psychic Scream is the point I did really want to lead to. It's just so dangerous in this position.
Warlock
It's a
players,
one-off.
close your eyes.
It's a one-of, and Fr0zen nods. That is a card that has been in the opening hand since the Mulligan. It seems from Fr0zen's play that he gave that card credit for being Shadow Reaper Anduin. Because it's been there, it's been a card that just hasn't been played since the very, very early turns. So he chose to make the play, as I mentioned, that did not get wrecked by Shadow Reaper Anduin, and instead his read cost him in the long run.
Yeah, I do wonder whether you just go for the Dark Pact and get the value now. Worst case, you could use Prince to as a 3/3 charge by copying the Doomguard later on. Like, it's way less damage, but it's more guaranteed damage. They're the kind of risks you always juggle in games like this.
Yeah. Q-Block, an incredibly complex deck. The win condition just varies so much on a game-by-game basis.
Not even your win condition against a certain archetype. It's
No,
the actual
on a
game
literal
played out.
game-by-game basis.
That's why I love the deck so much.
It is really fun. But Fr0zen right now doesn't care too much about how fun a deck is. He just wants it to win at all costs. Because it doesn't matter how favored your lineup is, you still have to execute and get over the line. Fr0zen is only here because of that very fact. He should not be here. He should have lost to Sintalo. That is just what the matchup said, but Hearthstone is not played on paper by statistics. It's played by human beings who make errors and who make inspired plays that can tilt things in their favor.
Fr0zen hitting turn 10, and we all know what that means. No point waiting to try and get any more Doomguard value. Often just slamming Gul'dan as soon as possible is key. Get one Doomguard, that's actually very, very good for Fr0zen. With the amount of Voidwalkers in play and the limitation on how many demons you can even summon because of what the board looks like,
right?
With the Zealot and the Librarian on board, just getting one Doomguard was huge there.
3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 13, 14 damage represented on the board. If JasonZhou did not have answers, but JasonZhou has a full hand of priest cards, it's just so likely he has game against this. Orkanite Circle, Dragonfire Potion, even big Pyromancer plays, you know, interjected with pings to random minions here and there would be able to take huge chunks of this board away.
Definitely a spot you don't want to smash yourself in. Without having power demon play and looking at Fr0zen's hand and the shape of this, there's no cubes, there's no big pushes from Fr0zen in hand now. And also, because he's Gul'dan, he doesn't have life tap anymore. He's taking one card a turn.
Right.
He cannot accelerate his card draw, and he has 17 cards in his deck because of that Psychic Scream as well. Funnily enough, he has extra cube because of the Prince.
Yes.
Prince does not revert back to Prince in Psychic Stream, but is a cube now. It chose its path, now it has to live with it.
These are just such low impact cards being drawn by Fr0zen. Defile, Hellfire, Mistresses of Mixtures, just not what he needs in this spot. He needs some kind of way to race this down, but he made his big push on that Tal'Daram turn, and I really do think it was based on a hand read that ended up being incorrect.
Using the Doomsayer there for the Dark Part just to get some value, because guess what? Doomsayer not going to do too much. Versus JasonZhou's Priest. He is pressuring Jason. He is receiving a good amount of damage, 16 health. His next draw could be a Doom Guard, for example.
Jason
Get some work done, but
Jason with a slightly unconventional build as well, playing the Greater Healing Potion, which we've not seen a great deal of recently. So he even has the counteraction to the pressure from Fr0zen at this point as well.
And one of the odd things you can do in this circumstances, the Warlock is just grind the Priest down. They're missing cards like Bella, like Mind's Blast, so it becomes like a weird race, but you have the consistent damage.
Right.
But as you said, great healing potion. It's going to get a huge amount of that. And also, yeah, Lyra.
Yeah, about that. I really do wish these animations would cooperate, so I would know exactly where in the sequence we are right now, and what Jason's outs are to enter the game right now at this point. It seems unlikely. Yeah.
Especially when you remove silence from the equation.
Yeah. Hellfire, Spellstone takes him back up to 19. There are still Mind Blasts in hand for JasonZhou. The silence gets burned though. It looks like with Priest of the Feast he can quite happily heal up with all these one-mana options. It looks like he might have lethal covered anyway.
Silent Crow, Powered Shield, there's so many cheap spells in hand. This looks to be back end of the game here for JasonZhou versus Fr0zen. Looks like he's going to be able to even it up. Just look at the hand from Fr0zen. All the cards you do not want in this matchup when he's opening hand, it kind of have been for the last few turns, to be completely honest.
Right.
This one will prove very useful.
Curious, he played a Priest of the Feast and a Tar Creeper. He has a Mind Blast, a Spirit Lash, and another one-mana card in his hand. Fr0zen died anyway. He exploded. That was lethal.
Jason just wanted to give Tar Creeper his time.
Yeah.
Get him on the board to have some fun, but he does even it up. We've seen JasonZhou come back from tough spots multiple times in this tournament. He's continuing to do so now. Everything's even for these players. This next game of Hearthstone will be the biggest game of Hearthstone they have ever played. It will propel them to the finals of the 2017 Hearthstone World Championship and a chance at, let's be honest, true glory at this point.
Yeah, and two incredibly deserving players. Fr0zen for his ability to think out of the box and just the power of his mind, honestly, the way he thinks about the game, some of the plays that he's able to analyze, and also his metagaming, honestly. Like, I've heard him talk about things that he does to influence his opponents to make mistakes that I don't really think other players are really thinking about at that kind of level, whereas Jason, of course, his record now just speaks for itself. When you get into the top 4 of the World Championship twice, your ability as a player is no longer under question.
You cannot really argue that fact, right? We are going to be moving on. The last game for one of these players. JasonZhou on his Druid. Fr0zen on the Warlock. Nothing too crazy for JasonZhou in the opening hand. Fr0zen, on the other hand, Librarian, Mixtures of Mixtures, good starts, especially with the Spellstone in hand.
I love, adore this Hydra from JasonZhou. If there is one weakness of Cube Warlock, it is its inability to just remove big dumb piles of stats from the board. They don't play Siphon Soul. It's so unlikely that they get a Spellstone all the way upgraded, and even then they need to add a Mortal Coil on top of it to do 8 or spell damage. So I love just keeping a 5-mana 8/8 in your opening hand, especially when going second, when you can just dump it out on Festival.
And no Twisted Nether either. They save those for the Control Warlock players. Fr0zen, though, has got a pretty reasonable opening here. Hellfire, very nice pickup. Defile can get some amazing work done, which may be why Fr0zen hasn't quite dropped the Librarian yet. It may even hold on to it for a little bit, because it is a great Defile activator. And especially against aggro Druid, you cannot always rely on there being a 1 health minion alive.
Well, his curve also just dictated that there was no real need to play it. He played Mistress on 1 because it was more stats, then you can tap on 2, then you can Librarian plus tap on 3. It's just the way the curve worked out kind of naturally.
The options now for Jason. He can go wide with the buffs with the Power of the Wild. He could have dropped the Market Yashiraj with a guaranteed card draw and buffing up the Mole or the Raven. He's just going to go for the wide, but just make everything as sturdy as possible going into turn 4. We can see only the Mole would survive the 2-1 at that point. And does Fr0zen want more value out of this Hellfire?
Well, more importantly, let's look at, we've established that Fr0zen is a big hand reader, right? So now there is 2 cards left in the opening hand that were mulliganed for and not used, or sorry, kept in mulligan and not used at this point. What does he give them credit for being? And if he thinks his opponent would keep, for example, a Hydra, does he have a setup to counter that? Is his best play against Bittertide Hydra just facelessing the Bittertide Hydra to try and contest it? These are all horrible questions that Fr0zen needs to start asking himself.
Did commit to the Hellfire. Here comes the play you were waiting for, Sol. The coin into Hydra. What is Fr0zen going to do? He does, though, a Faceless Manipulator, in which he could say, well, you got an AA, now I've got an AA. You can hit me once, but then maybe I can do something pretty cool as well. These are the games where sometimes you see Faceless on Hydra. JasonZhou goes face with his. Fr0zen goes face with his, cubes his, and then Dark Packs it for 2 Hydras.
Oh God, please no.
We're all getting insight into how I played this deck on ladder. There is the two-turn kill of the Hydra as well, with the second Hellfire being picked up. But I think with 1 Hellfire already being cast, really want to hold on to that second one, in case there's a follow-up Living Mana, for example.
It's also worth noting that Jason has 10 in play right now, plus 12, plus 6. He has 18 damage next turn with Master Yashiraj Savage Roar.
What you're saying is Fr0zen save. Save.
It looks like he is going to try and set up that 2-turn clear we were talking about. Luckily, with the double buff on the Spellstone, one coming from the Hellfire, one coming from the Librarian, I believe, set him up into that position where he can potentially push through this. But he has nothing now that can resist the Hellfire. JasonZhou just has to go.
No choice. Can't do something with cards that aren't in your hand at this point. You have to play to what your hand tells you to do.
Oh, both Void Lords drawn. Reduces the power of Possessed Lackey so much against an aggro deck. He's now looking for that 1 outer of the Skull of the Minari as opposed to a 2 outer of the Possessed Lackey.
I'm scared for both players, so I'm not even joking. Hellfire, although will clear up the board, at the end of the day, it still does damage to Fr0zen, and he has no real way to heal this turn in hand. He'll have to wait till next turn.
Yeah, Fr0zen had real potential game-winning draws that turn, and they were Mistress of Mixtures and Doomsayer. If he could Hellfire Doomsayer this turn and get a free turn next turn to develop onto this, or if he could Hellfire this turn, Mistress and Dark Pact himself up to an enormous amount of health, that would have carried him through to the point where he could just hard cast Void Lord onto the board and win the game. Without that, he's putting himself in trouble. There is the Mistress, though. 1 card late, but he is dead to second Savage Roar. That is not it.
I don't know if I can take this, Sol.
You're gonna have to, mate. It's
I
your
don't
job.
really have a choice, to be completely fair. Fr0zen going for the life tap. What a brave play. You are just dead to Savage Roar this turn. He has already seen 1 being cast. So there is the safety net of saying he should not have it if you look at the odds.
Look at the stakes. At the 2, does Fr0zen look more calm to you? He looks more calm to me.
A little bit, but they both look pretty nervous to me. It's the Zen focus where, at this point, the game is out of Fr0zen's hands. As soon as the turn flicks over to Fr0zen, he will probably look a little bit more nervous. Although Mistress of Mixtures, Dark Pact, absolutely.
Alongside a Spellbreaker that
Wait,
completely neutralizes the board.
Should he cube? Cube the Mistress?
Side effects.
You definitely could, yeah, it's between that and the Spellbreaker. The Dark Pacting the cube
this
gives
is
you a
just
massive
so
board
much health.
presence as well, exactly.
So much health and minions. This is exactly what Fr0zen wants. There's living mana for a refill. Fr0zen does have a Defile,
There's no one.
but currently no activator.
Yeah.
But there can be a one with the Mistress, right?
But Jason can play around that by trading off his 1-2 and then hero powering down the remaining 2-1. Then there cannot be a 1.
There's the hero. This isn't Highlander. There cannot be one.
Good players,
Wait.
people. One of the weaknesses of Defile that people specifically called out in this metagame, in this tournament, is that it falls off a cliff in terms of power level when you play against good players. But now, the Spellbreaker! Woo!
Spellbreaker trade. You left the Firefly up. There was no choice for JasonZhou. There's a huge Defile. JasonZhou doesn't have much left except a second living mana.
Is it too late though? We've hit the point where it's hard casting time for Fr0zen. Fr0zen just goes Void Lord, Gul'dan from this point. Living Mana's a hell of a card. It's not that good, Raven.
The main issue for the Void Lords versus Living Mana is there isn't a double buff available, right? The Living Mana is amazing with 3 attack, but it dies to the Void Lord trades. Fr0zen hard casting the Void Lord. He also has the flexibility depending on what goes on here of maybe Faceless and something else depending on what he draws, so it's not guaranteed hard cast next turn. He might just go Gul'dan.
Very possible.
I will have one Void Lord and 3 Void Walkers, thank you very much, and 5 armor and a hero power that kills a minion a turn. Crit Lord, just not what JasonZhou needs. Needed buffs. You need to make these trades as efficiently as possible and not lose his board in the process. Is this the end for the back-to-back top 4 Chinese player JasonZhou?
It's looking like it. Void Lord is a very big boy, and there is no Spellbreaker in JasonZhou's deck to put through it. When I've asked players about this, they say that they feel Spellbreaker is unnecessary, that it doesn't add too much, that you need to chain buffs.
This is going to be Doomsayer.
And this is a incredible setup now for Fr0zen to nuke this board. He doesn't care about his board state. He can bring it all back 100 times over. It's JasonZhou's board that matters, and that's the look of resignation from JasonZhou. Fr0zen is going to take his lineup marching forward to the finals of the Hearthstone World Championship.
An intense first semi-final here, but Fr0zen does take it. You saw the relief on his face the second he saw the concede. Getting up, he is continuing this miracle run. He is your first finalist for the Hearthstone World Championship.
And he honestly probably feels like he's running on borrowed time right now, like his name is already on the trophy. To get through that incredible unfavored position against Sintalol, to even be in that spot, that may have been his final. His name might already be written on this trophy from this point.
Well, we're going to be finding out by the end of the day. Let's find out more about Fr0zen's opinion on that match. He's with TJ on the stage.
Thanks very much, guys. Fr0zen, you're going to the finals, man. How's it feel?
I can't believe it. It's unreal. Just unreal.
What's going through your head right now? Are you even thinking about the next match? What are you thinking about right now?
I'm thinking about all the people that helped me get me here. Really want to thank all my practice partners. And I'm also thinking that was probably the best years of Hearthstone I've ever played in my life.
I think the crowd can probably agree. Now, I think you've sort of become a little bit of a crowd favorite here. There's a lot of Fr0zen signs in the audience. As you look forward to the finals, what do you want to say to the people here and even on Twitch that have supported you along this way? Any words for them as you head into your final match?
I thank everyone for their support. I know there's a lot of people watching me since a long time ago, and I'm glad that they're still rooting for me here.
Awesome, man. One more round of applause for our first finalist, Fr0zen.